Donald Trump just get hit with more bad news from one of the worst possible places for him, Fox News.
Back home, the average price of gas is now above $4 in every single state. And just 5 months ahead of the midterms, new Fox polling shows 58% of respondents say the cost of living is their top economic worry. That's up 8 points from February. And 71% disapprove of the president's performance on the economy.
According to a new Fox News national survey, Trump's overall approval has fallen to 39%, while 61% disapprove. Fox described this as its highest disapproval in its polling across both of Donald Trump's terms. The latest poll conducted between May 15th and 18th among over 1,000 registered voters, it showed that a majority of respondents, 58%, up from 50% in February, say that the cost of living is their top economic concern, far ahead of other issues like government spending, jobs, and tariffs.
The latest read from the University of Michigan on consumer sentiment. What do we have, Madison?
Bad number. The number is 48.2 for May. That is a record low. It was expected to slip down to 49.5, but 48.2. We also have some news on inflation, 4.5% increase over the year in inflation. You know, when you look at this number, 48.2, this is the third straight decline and the second record low in a row.
And that's bad news for Trump, right? Because he blatantly said recently that he doesn't think about Americans' financial situation. And this poll is showing that there is widespread disapproval of his handling of that very issue, including significant dissatisfaction among Republicans. Disapproval of Trump's handling of the economy has risen from 56% a year ago to 66% last month, and now 71% in a new low driven in part by a 7% increase in Republican disapproval.
I think it's stupid on stilts.
Why?
Because it will invariably put us in a position where your taxpayer dollars and my taxpayer dollars could potentially compensate someone who assaulted a police officer, admitted their guilt, got convicted, got pardoned, and now we're going to pay them for that? That's absurd. The American people are going to reject this out of hand. When you take money from me to give to a purpose that I vehemently disagree with, that's tyranny, and that's what that account is.
On inflation, where Trump's net approval sits at a historic low of 52 points, 51% of Republicans now disapprove of his performance also. And the main reason is obvious, as we keep saying. So much so that even the flip-flopping CBS News are designating a specific segment to this issue, affordability in America. This is especially dangerous for Trump because his political brand depends on this claim that he sold to the American people on 2 separate occasions somehow successfully. He understands the economy. He can lower prices. He can make life cheaper. He can run the country like a business, even though he bankrupted many businesses. But Fox's numbers show that their viewers are not buying it.
Well, honestly, what has been holding me back is I feel like the change that I was expecting from the president himself, I don't feel in my everyday life, which is concerning to me. I still feel obviously that, you know, prices are very, very, very high. You know, if you're going to the grocery store or just in general, because inflation still exists. Unfortunately, now we have the higher gas prices, which really hurt, you know, everyday people in their pocket. And I've voted my entire life. And the frustration right now is, it's just unbelievable because, what really changes? I just feel like that we're kind of, kind of steering the ship in the same direction.
Even Republicans are losing faith, which he then only compounds the catastrophe when he gets in front of the press and says that he doesn't think about Americans' financial situation when it comes to foreign wars.
When you're negotiating with Iran, Mr. President, to what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all. That's the only thing that motivates.
When you look at Fox's own poll, it explicitly connects these dynamics. noting rising economic pain and growing opposition to the Iran war, despite voters in their poll believing that the US may be winning militarily. And you see, if even Republicans for a moment think that he might be winning this war, they still may not think that the war is worth it. And that's a big issue for the president when he's unable to give a clear end date of when this thing will come to a conclusion.
Lauren, going forward, when you look at the state of play heading into the midterms, maybe now Cuba, the regime, you're going to have to own those decisions when the ballots come back around. And what do you make of not focusing on the domestic battles that a lot of MAGA voters signed up for? That was the war they thought they were going to be fighting, was a policy battle about fixing the affordability crisis at home that has really real implications in your home state and specifically in your district. What do you make of that?
Yes. So these foreign issues that we are facing are not my top priority. I understand that the president is tackling them hard. I praised him for his work in Venezuela. I've praised him for the initial strikes in Iran. And it's really tough to defend all the aspects of this war with Iran currently, especially when we see the Secretary of War doing campaign events in Kentucky, of all places, in the middle of a war. That's really difficult to grasp.
And Fox found that voters are increasingly against continued US involvement in Iran. And inside Trump's own coalition, Republican disapproval of Trump's economic performance is rising, which is never more apparent than the response to his $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund.
Congressman, what do you make of this $1.7 billion fund for
bad news? We're going to try to kill it.
You're going to try and kill it?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. And how?
Well, we're considering legislative options. We're going to write a letter to the AG to start, but we're considering a legislative option.
Okay.
We're trying to unpack exactly, what the legal machinations are, but can't do that.
Right. And have you ever heard of any other Americans, other than Trump as an associate?
I haven't. I have not.
Who are unauditable by the IRS?
I've never heard that before.
Okay. So would that be part of the legislative?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah, you can't do that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate
it.
Fox News also reported that Senate Republicans are recoiling from the fund, with few Republicans actively supporting it.
There's no architectural plans. There is no environmentals. There's no engineering. There's no sense of, when we asked, how did it happen to cost exactly $1 billion? In my mind, it could cost a lot less. It could cost a lot more. I just don't get it.
And that's another issue, right? Because how is Trump supposed to sell it to voters who are already furious about his prices when he can't even sell it to his own Republican base? And imagine telling someone struggling with gas and groceries that the good news is that Washington are working on a nearly $2 billion fund for people who say they were politically targeted and may also protect Trump from future tax audits. But also, don't worry, you get a ballroom that you can come and see, because we're focused on the pressing issues here in the Trump administration.
Yeah. Well, what he's saying is that Republicans are talking about the great night that they had, and President Trump did have a good night in terms of his endorsements. I want to unpack what happened in some of these races. But so he's saying they're out there, riding high, saying, we're on our way to this. Virginia didn't end up going our way. Right now, Cook has the Republicans with a +5 advantage in the House. That's not assuming that we can pick up Virginia 1 and 2 and North Carolina 1, which I think that we can. But he's saying we got to bring this back down to earth, and let's talk about the facts on the ground, which is not that Democrats are spiraling, but that we have, according to the latest polling the last 2 days, Quinnipiac and the New York Times, a 10+ point advantage on the generic ballot. President Trump is at a 34% approval rating in the Quinnipiac poll, and he's underwater 18 points with independents. So last night, he can feel really good about what happened with Thomas Massie, but that district was a Trump +35, and they only won by 10 points, and they had to spend $35 million on it. It usually costs $100,000 to $500,000 to win a primary. $35 million, tens of millions of dollars coming in from outside groups. I was astounded by this. You watch the parties at the end of the night. Thomas Massie's party, packed. Ed Gelrain, is that how you pronounce it? Has nobody there, no state lawmakers. He got 70 donors in total from Kentucky, whereas Thomas Massie had over 1,500 donations. This was about outside money and Donald Trump going after him, and he didn't even win as big as he should have. You look in Georgia, who John Ossoff may square off against. There's going to be a runoff, both of them lockstep with Donald Trump in arguably a purple state right now where Ossoff has a big advantage. The endorsement of Ken Paxton yesterday, probably not that good for the Republicans. Brian Kilmeade was talking about it this morning. The guy was impeached by his own colleagues, too repugnant for Republicans, wife leaving him, divorcing him on biblical grounds. And then Trump is out there and his platform is, I want absolute loyalty. I want to trade stocks, make hundreds of millions of dollars. I want my 1776 fund to make sure J6ers, get the money that they're owed. I want immunity for me and my family from an audit forevermore. His kids are making tons of money. That's not a compelling platform. This is your healthcare plan. This is like, I want to get rich and I don't care that you are poorer. So that's what last night told me.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.